Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Why you just a jack up and down like this now?
I hope nobody got it. Greenwoods went for goal. Goalkeeper missed it. Play again. Fight when he does a right hand and down goes people straight away.
Welcome back from that break. We're just joining us a sports extraordinary here on Atlantic Television Network. And today's show is very simple. We'll take a look at the best managers in Europe. Of course, the 2022-2023 season is over. So we'll delve straight now to things that we have for you. The managers who have been outstanding. And I tell you, the manager is such a strong one. The job of a manager is very, 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 very tough. And joining me live in the studio, we have Emmanuel Michael, of course, my colleague here, and he's live in the studio. Mike, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Temple, and good evening to our viewers out there. It's always a pleasure to dig deep into the world of sport. And today is a very special package where we are going to dedicate it to especially to some of the great managers that have done so far this season, that have done well for themselves this season. We want to preview their performances so far.
And of course, on air, I have Sunday Ogumbe. Sunday Ogumbe is a renowned sports pundit here in Nigeria. Mr. Sunday, good evening and welcome to Sports Extraordinary here.
Good evening, Tempo, another participant today. Trust you guys are good.
And of course, we also hope to get Ferrami, Agboyega, Samuel Faz, who will be joining us also on the Zoom any moment from now. But quickly, let me start with you. Let me start with you. In the game of football, we have win, loss, as victory, defeat, or a draw. And clearly, let me get your view as the manager of this season. Let me get your top 10 managers in Europe. I know you already have them listed out already. But let me first of all start with number one. We'll leave number one for for later. Who is your top 10 manager, starting with number 10 in Europe this season? Hello, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
okay,
I was asking. I said,
top 10 manager.
Yes, your top 10 manager, your number 10 manager. We are counting down from 10 to 1. So let me get to hear who your number 10 manager is.
For our tempo, I not have that chronological in arrangement, but based on what I have in mind concerning what I've watched thus far in this season, I think my managers of the season, I will first of all pick this manager, Xabi Alonso, for at least playing 51 matches, unbeaten, and that one alone, I think, shows that he is a manager coming up and that will probably get this Mourinho, Guardiola out of the stage in years to come. And don't forget, even though he narrowly lost he surprisingly lost that Europa Cup final against Atalanta, but then playing 51 matches of beating shows that he's a coach, he's a manager that knows onion, that knows what is ready for the business. Then secondly, my another manager that I would think, ahead of that, I want to give it to Pep Guardiola. Yes, Pep Guardiola might lose against Manchester United in the FA Cup final, but look at what he did. Someone who played 35 matches in his own front without beating, should be given a desired respect, desired honor, and that's accolade. I gave it to him, even though Manchester United they saw her in the hands of this European champion. Don't forget that.
Okay, Mr. Sandra, hopefully I will get to hear you, but joining us also is Samuel. Samuel, you're welcome to the show. Earlier I introduced you. Good to have you here. Can you please talk to us? Let's get to know if you can hear us loud and clear.
Yeah, good evening to you, and of course, quick apologies for coming a little bit behind schedule. I had to tidy up one or two things.
Okay.
Good evening to you. It's good to be here. Do what we know how to do best, celebrating the latest and the best in the world of sports. Let's get straight to this beautiful evening.
Oh, good to hear from you. I'm so glad. From what Sunday said, we're looking at the top 10 managers. Okay. And if you are to do your number 10 pick, of course, we're going to start from number 10, 9, 8, 7 down to number 1, the best manager. Let me hear from you. He has enumerated the lovely managers we have in Europe. And when I talk about managers in Europe, it doesn't matter whether it's mainstream Europe or whether it's the top 5 leagues. I'm looking at managers anywhere, even the Championship in England, League 2, managers that have been outstanding. So let's get to know who your number 10 pick is this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. My number 10 pick would be this man that is in charge of Girona at this point in time, talking about Mikel Sanchez. He has done incredibly well for himself. Being the very first time Girona will qualify for the UEFA Champions League is not a feat that should be underestimated. So for me, I will be placing it in my top 10, and of course, he will be in the 10th position at this point in time. I mean, over 90 points he was able to accrue for himself in La Liga. At some point in time, there were league table toppers arrived there in La Liga, and they finished in the third position, so which is a commendable one. So for me, Mikel Sanchez will come in number 10 position for me right about now. Moving on to my number 9, I love this man that has actually, toured around Europe, well experienced, well versed. Talking about Unai Emery of Aston Villa, qualifying them to the UEFA Champions League again, the very first time in a very long while for these guys. Remember, before he came on board, Aston Villa were struggling. They were a Europa League, team right there. But at this point in time, nobody would have given Aston Villa a chance at the beginning of the season that they will be making the UEFA Champions League against all odds way from the likes of Manchester United, Chelsea, likes of Liverpool, Tottenham Hotspur right there. But against all odds, he was able to make sure that he got the job done for them, making sure they qualify for the UEFA Champions League right there. And I think he has been able to get some compensation by getting a contract extension that was announced yesterday right there. In number 8, I'll have the Sporting Lisbon man, Ruben Amorim, a man that has actually done so well for himself this season. Quite tactical, quite brilliant, and an amazing manager right there. So he will be in my number 8 position. And I'm not surprised, my number 7, it's going to be Mikel Arteta of Arsenal. I'm not going to put my number, my top 5, my top 6 for obvious reasons. I felt Manchester City had no business winning, the league this season if they had done what they were supposed to do. Talking about the Gunners, talking about Mikel Arteta, but unfortunately, they lost out again on the final day to Manchester City. But despite that, I still think he deserves a shout in my top 10. And that is why I'm going to put him in the 7th position right now. In the 6th position, it has to be man Simon Inzaghi, winning the Scudetto title for Inter Milan again, and of course doing it in an amazing fashion right there. Over 10 points he used in winning that Scudetto title in the Italian Serie A. So I would actually say come to him, my 6th position right there. In the 5th position has to be Eden Terzic of Borussia Dortmund. There is no how he would not be making the 5th position, because if you're talking about teams that would have made it to the finals of the UEFA Champions League, you would never, or let me say, many would never have predicted that Eden Terzic would be in the finals of the UEFA Champions League at this point in time. Fine, we can say maybe they struggled a little bit in the Bundesliga, but if you look at their performance right there on the continent of Europe, it's been nothing but amazing. Remember, they defeated PSG, they defeated Atletico Madrid, they defeated Paris Saint-Germain right there. So, it's a lot that they are in the finals of the UEFA Champions League at this point in time. And that is why I'll be giving Eden Terzic of Borussia Dortmund in the 5th position. In the 4th position, it's going to be Pep Guardiola. Kudos to him, winning the 4th consecutive EPL title right there. But don't be surprised, it's not my number 1, because we are used to Pep Guardiola and Manchester City winning the English Premier League right there. And of course, I was expecting him to do probably a double, even a treble again this season. He lost out to Manchester United right there in the finals on Sunday. So for me, he will be in the 4th position for me. I'm talking about number 3 as the Gian Gasperini of Atalanta. For the very first time in his career, for the very first time in Italian Serie A, they are having a champion right there in the UEFA Europa League. No Italian team has ever won the UEFA Europa League. That is quite amazing. That is quite a talent. That is quite an achievement this season. That is why it will be in my number 3 position, talking about Gasperini right there. Number 2 has to be Xabi Alonso. I mean, there is no how he would not actually make this list. Xabi Alonso, unprecedented performance he has had for himself this season. We cannot really pinpoint one star man that has really helped or carried violent in this season. It is a combination of talented players working together and getting the job done. And that is will give it to him. Talking about Gasparini. And my number one has to be Carlo Ancelotti, winning the La Liga right there. And it's looking likely that he might actually get to win the Champions League again, this Saturday. So for me, Carlo Ancelotti is my number one, and for me, the best manager this particular season.
Of course, I mean, getting to hear from Fast there. We still have my colleague here in the studio. From the reaction of, Mr. Sunday and Fast, of course, you also have your own opinion as to who your best managers are. Before I go back to Sunday, who earlier talked about the managers that have performed optimally well this season, let me have your take on your top 10, 9, and 8 manager this season for you.
Well, for me, I think it's a very, very difficult call to make here because we have so many managers that actually
are standing this season, true,
in different leagues across, Europe, and also in Africa as well, because I won't forget to mention Africa because they are also in the mix as well. Hence, we are talking about the best managers.
In Europe.
Okay,
in Europe, precisely.
Okay. Not only down to Europe, I think for me, first I will start with Russell Matt of StarTimes. He did a very great
as a number 10 pick.
Yes, as he did a very great job for me because looking at how the championship is is keenly contested out there and how difficult it is for that coach to come at a time that he came and was able to also bring back Southampton immediately back into the Premier League where they were relegated last time. I think he did a marvelous job. And again, in the number 8 position, you also mentioned maybe McNair of Ipswich Town as well, who also made it through. So for me, then 8th position, I will go for Enzo Maresca because at least
all of them from the championship.
Yes. Why am I picking them from championship? Because I had to take a look at Europe, second-tier club football, and I discovered that England is the most toughest. For you to also make it through to the Premier League immediately after being relegated, and you were not with the team before they got relegated, and you were brought in and you were able to change the narrative, bringing them back to this Premier League immediately is not an easy feat. So I'm giving it to Maresca. Then again, for Simon Inzaghi, for me, of Inter, is at number 7 pick for me as it stands right now because the man did a great job with a little financial backing from the club because before he was appointed, the board had to sit him down, told him the financial status of the club, and he said, no problem, I'm ready to work. I just want to build this club back to, its status so that, it becomes that same club that people used to know. But of course, the history of Inter Milan, needless of going into the history. And then again, for me, I also think that Luis Enrique also, is going to make that list as well. Of PSG. Because within the shortest period of time that he has, he came to the PSG side. Despite seeing some of those big name players out there, leaving PSG at the time that he came, he was still able to also steady the ship and also give them 2 trophies. At the end of it, and he went as well, in his first season. Then again, I also think that Gasparini of Inter Milan, of Atlanta rather, did a great job
as number 5 pick.
As number 5 pick, because looking at how Atlanta actually started the season, the Atlanta is this team that does not have that financial muscle to spend big and get some of those big name players, some of those recognized stars, but then they were able to push and get to the Europa. Not just getting to the Europa, they did marvelously. Were able to tame down the lives of Europe, powerhouse Liverpool away. They dismantled Liverpool at 3-1. So it wasn't a statement of fluke, it was a statement of intent. And coming up against a team that have not lost a single game, both domestic and Europe, in the final, talking about Bayern Leverkusen. They got the better of Bayern Leverkusen, 3-0, very clinical, impeccable display on a day. So I'm giving it to him, as my number 5 pick. Then again, to talk about Pep Guardiola, of course, you cannot forget him, though. He did pretty well. He was in for the number 4 this season, yes, but he couldn't make it. Then number 3. Javi Alonso for me is there because of his exploit, winning two important titles for himself. The Bundesliga, which is very difficult, he has been monopolized by a certain Bayern Munich. For him to come in there within the shortest period of time,
and bring the
3
monopoly,
years, and bring them up and break that monopoly, break the dream, also win the DFB vocal as well, is something magical for me. Then again, you talk about maybe AC Milan. Why am I picking the coach of AC Milan? Is because of the fact that they went through a whole lot of problems so far this season, but they were able to at least spend a little they have. At least they were able to push and get to the champions. Got the Champions League spot out there. This is my number 2 pick. Then again, for me, the final person, I am giving it to Carlo Ancelotti. If he gets to win the Champions League, if not, I would have put him in number 2. Then again, take Javi Alonso to number 1. But I'm still considering the Champions League, because if Carlo Ancelotti gets to win the Champions League, then that would be very magical. Winning it 15 good times for Real Madrid, a club record. Then again, winning the La Liga with 10 points disparity between Madrid and Barcelona, and even 14 points adrift between them and Girona, who came third as well. So for me, this is the lineup of my best coaches so far for this season. If Ancelotti gets to win the Champions League come this weekend, he stands as number 1. But if he doesn't, he will go to number 2. Why Javi Alonso will come to number 1 for me?
It's funny, but let's go back to the guys on air, and Sam and Mr. Sunday. I'm sure you've heard, my colleague here in the studio gave all dish out his pick, a number 1 to 10 pick of the best managers. And let me go back to Mr. Sunday now. Mr. Sunday, are you there? Okay, Mr. Fast, from what he said and what you have enumerated, is there a manager you think on a norm deserve to be in the top 10 from your top 10? But the manager is not there, and somehow you have seen it, being picked by either of Mike here in the studio or Mr. Sunday. Is there a manager who deserves to be on your list, but by virtue of something, by virtue of special preference to you personally, he's not there, but you've seen it, being placed in the 2 lists from the 2 guys, you heard?
Yeah, well, he mentioned Xabi Hernandez, and I would really love to put him on my list due to obvious reasons, and that's to do with the fact that he was able to manage the situation right there, despite all of the financial constraints of Barcelona. Remember, at one point in time, in the anthem, we didn't know that he was leaving before he was literally there to stay. So I would really love to put him right there. I think I really do not see anyone if I could replace him with at this point in time on my list. Maybe a Ruben in Europe for this particular season, which is we cannot just underestimate that Mikel Sanchez did something only few managers could do, making a Girona qualify for the Champions League for the first time in their history is quite unprecedented. And Mikel Arteta, I just cannot replace with Mikel Arteta. So for me, if there is going to be an extra, maybe top 11, and I will try to slot him in 11th position. But for me, I think this match 11. My opinion, are the guys that I feel have really done so well in Europe this particular season.
Let's take a look at the manner at which some of the coaches have performed. From your list, do you think the Spanish coaches have done excellently as compared to other coaches, those from England, and like those of them you mentioned on your list?
You're talking about coaches that are managing Spanish clubs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's a mixture of a whole lot of, It's because on my list here, I only have about just two managers from the Spanish league, which has to be Carlo Ancelotti and Mikel Sanchez. I've got coaches from Italy, Serie A. I've got
Okay, we hope to reconnect back to you, Sam, and of course we'll also get to hear from you what you make of the coaches there. But can you hear me now?
Yeah, for me, talking about Spanish coaches that have actually distinguished themselves as here out there in Europe, I think one league that comes to my mind is the English Premier League. You saw the Bournemouth coach talking about Oriola. He did a very great job. This is Bournemouth side that nobody, give them a chance. But the way they were able to fight, to stay afloat in the league. So far, not just staying afloat, they finished in a very respectable and a very comfortable position in the league. Then again, they played a very good football, very possessive kind of football. They were able to hold their own, even against some of the big teams. Then again, you talk about the likes of Unai Emery. He's also a Spaniard as well, making his mark out there with Aston Villa. With the limited resources that they have, yet they were still able to compete favorably well. Finishing in the Champions League spot is no mean feat. Then again, Mikel Arteta of Arsenal is also a Spaniard. Coincidentally, his village in Spain is very close to that of Unai Emery. In fact, it's about 50 kilometers away, from Spain, between his place and that of Unai Emery. These are Spanish coaches that have actually distinguished themselves as managers, so far across Europe. Then again, you can't forget to mention the master himself, talking about Pep Guardiola. He's also a Spaniard. He's doing well with a certain Manchester City side. Not also forgetting Xavi Alonso. So many persons don't even know that he's also a Spaniard. So pretty well. So these are some of the 5 Spanish coaches that we want to say yes, they've actually proven their mark in terms of coaching ability, in terms of what they have to offer in the world of football. These 5 coaches, they all hail from the Spanish. And if you see the pattern of their football, you want to say yes, they are playing the progressive kind of football. They are playing the 21st century kind of football, and not those antiquated, archaic, and outdated negative form of football where you want to sit back, absorb pressure, try to hit your opponent on a counter, which has proven to be outdated in this era. That is why most of the clubs right now is looking for a coach with a dynamic flair that can possess the game and also defensively good. You saw the criteria that Chelsea Football gave when they were looking for a new manager to take over. So these are Spanish coaches that have actually distinguished themselves so far this season. Taking a look at their record is very, very impeccable. Luis Enrique as well, I forgot to mention, is also a Spaniard and he's doing pretty well for. So it looks as though in the whole of Europe, Spanish coaches, they are doing pretty much better compared to the Italian.
Maybe this season because in the various clubs you can see what they've been able to do. But last seasons that may not be the case. But this season it's very visible. Mr. Fast, I don't know if you share same sentiment with my colleague here in the studio. Okay, Fast is here. Can you hear me?